It's funny because I saw some articles online talking about this, and they're like, oh, this find is probably worth over $10,000 or tens of thousands of dollars. And it's like, just this last picture alone here with the Final Fantasy III, the Turtles in Time, and the Chrono Trigger, like, that's $100,000 worth of sealed games. Those 3 games alone. Welcome back, everybody. So if you haven't heard about this already, there was a big store inventory found by these guys on YouTube. The YouTube channel is THISISGAMEROOM. 59,000 views over the past 2 days. They are showing off this big inventory find from an old game store. So let's just start by actually looking at some of the gems and treasures that these guys did find, because it is really impressive. Now, unfortunately, a lot of this video does look like it was shot while these guys were running from the Cloverfield monster, so I am just gonna kind of bounce around to the spots of interest. And just starting at the beginning, I have to assume this is how they found the games, and you can see that it's just right here, factory sealed games stacked on top of each other. Incredibly impressive to find anywhere in any state. He just pulled out Splatterhouse 3. Very good game to have factory sealed. Right above it there, 2 copies of Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Like, already insanely impressive, right? That's just a few of the factory sealed games. So just jumping ahead here a bit in the video, they now have it all back at their place. They're looking through it. These tubs that we see in front of us, assumedly are the complete in box games, because then they do shift over to different ones that they have over on the counter, and those are apparently the sealed games. At least that's how I'm understanding it. So we can just go ahead and take a look here inside some of these ones. CIB Genesis in this case, again, CIB Genesis in this one. Some really good titles in this one as well. 3 copies of Shining in the Darkness, Arrow the Acrobat, we've got Batman Revenge of the Joker there, Return of the Joker, I think it has a different name on Genesis. And there's the man with the shaky camera, Chris himself. Going into the next one, there's mostly just sports games, but he is showing off Treasure right here, which is a pretty valuable CIB Genesis game. In the next tub again, right, mostly just CIB sports games, which is a lot of what they did find. Like, of course, if you find excess store inventory, the games that were printed into the dirt the most and that a store was most likely to have excess copies of is sports games. Even in factory sealed form, a lot of sports games still have a lot of copies floating around out there. So just bouncing ahead now a bit to where they start with the sealed stuff they're showing off. Right off the bat, of course, they are showing off sealed Maddens there. So this one here, I'm assuming is all sealed Genesis games, and I don't see anything of insane value in this tub. Over here on the side where my head's kind of covering, there is a copy of Sonic 3, and then we get into some of the big stuff here with factory sealed Super Nintendo games. And right now he's showing off Super Bases Loaded 2, showing you they are authentic factory sealed video games, which there is no doubt. If you have any doubts, if you think it's fake or whatever, I don't see why these dudes would go to the effort of putting together a fake video like this. You'd literally have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of factory sealed games available and then throw them inside of these totes, risk damage, all to just shoot a video for 50K views. I mean, if you want to think it's fake, go for it, but I have no reason at all with what they show, with what they say, to believe this is fake in any way possible. Looking inside this tin right here, we have 5 copies of Dracula, 2 copies of ActRaiser 2 right there. Not bad at all in this one. Also, just as a quick count, when they were going through these, I counted about 23 to 30 games per tub, and about 5 tubs that they show off of sealed games, assumedly, right? That would make it about 150 sealed games total that they find, which is honestly pretty crazy, but like, not insane, if that makes sense. I'll talk about it more in just a second here. Over in this tub, kind of interesting, there's more copies of Dracula. You can see there's one sitting over here. A couple of good titles over here with the Predators. Interestingly, these factory sealed Aladdins, there's at least 4 of them in this box, do look to be made in Japan prints, just based on them having the V-seams, so that's kind of interesting. It's weird they don't have the Majesco reprints on Aladdin, which does make a huge difference when we're talking about factory sealed games and the value of these games. And then into another tub here, which it looks like they did sort them alphabetically to some degree, because we're into like Uncharted Waters, Vidiots, Ultima. But then we also have B.O.B. in here, so I don't know how it's organized. But in this one, Mortal Kombat's a really huge title, same with Run Saber right beside it. They have stated that there's going to be a better video coming soon with better camera work and the full story of the find, so don't worry, we are going to cover that as well once it comes out. Then we get into the super heavy stuff that they have laid out on the living room floor here. And it's funny that they're like focusing in on this copy of Messiah, because if you look at the other factory sealed games, like that copy there does not matter. Yeah, sure, it's probably a rare game or whatever, but this Turtles in Time is probably $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more, depending on how it grades. Same with Chrono Trigger, same with Final Fantasy there. So it's just, I don't know if they fully know how well they've done, but they have done extremely well. And of course, I'm super excited for the guys. Like, good, get your money, get your find. They nailed it. This is the once in a lifetime dream for all of us, really. If you're out there collecting and hunting for video games, this is the dream find. Now we've seen a lot of the video there and you guys are all up to speed, let's just talk about some thoughts here. Clearly, if these people are able to find some old store inventory, that must mean that it's just out there everywhere. Factory sealed games are not rare, graded games are not rare, the market is gonna crash. On any of the super meaningful titles there, they have one of each game found, one copy of Turtles it looks like, one copy of Final Fantasy 3, one copy of Chrono, so that's not gonna do anything to the prices of those games. A game like Aladdin on Super Nintendo might feel the effects of having 5 copies come to the population. Maybe, if they're in mint condition. It is really hard to gauge the condition on a lot of this stuff. Obviously, it does look to be in really nice shape. Obviously, they're also going to send it off to get graded and they will sell it through the proper channels. It's kind of funny because when I was going through the comment section on their video, there's a lot of people talking about, oh, please don't send them to WATA, don't use that. Like, we got to keep video games pure. And it's kind of just one of those brain dead moments where, you guys, these are going to go to WATA games. Obviously, we are talking about the difference of tens of thousands of dollars if they do not get these games graded first. If the guys who found these games don't get them graded, they will be bought out at a pitiful price, the games will be graded and resold. So please, if you're sitting there thinking, I hope these guys don't grade their games, they're gonna grade the games. No one is gonna give up tens of thousands of dollars, and honestly, I hope they do grade them. I hope they sell them all at absolute top dollar. I hope that this find for these guys is a life-changing event. I wish them all the best in that respect. Interestingly though, a lot of people seem to be using this as a victory lap, that sealed games are not rare, that graded games are clearly overpriced, that this means the market is going to crash because finds like this are going to continually happen. And it's like, this is called a once in a lifetime find because something like this truly happens to an individual person once in a lifetime. If finds like this were actually something that happened at any kind of regularity, it wouldn't be blowing up all over YouTube. Frickin' IGN is writing articles because this find is so monumental. But when you go through it, like I said, we have 150 sealed games, assumedly, right? We'll get full details and numbers later. And of those, there's a lot of duplicates of lower value titles, to be honest. And of the super expensive stuff, we have one of each. I'm not really sure what people are expecting this to do to the sealed or graded game market, because honestly, I saw all the hype about this and then I watched the video and then I was kind of disappointed. With the way everyone's making it sound, I thought he was going to be holding up like 4 copies of Chrono Trigger, a factory case pack of Secret of Evermore. Like, I thought we were going to have volume of really good games. And even Zombies Ate My Neighbor there is probably the best game it looked like that had multiple copies of it found. 3 copies isn't going to change anything. This amount of supply is going to be absorbed immediately. If we just be real for a second here, the people who have invested in these games at $50,000, $100,000, they can afford to shelter themselves and purchase another singular copy if that's all it takes in order to protect the investment. Just think about that for a second. No one who's already heavily invested in this stuff is going to watch the market collapse because 1, 2, or 3 copies are going to enter the market. They will literally just buy them themselves. They will create the floor on these games. That is still how limited and scarce most of these are. And I know that's going to be hard for people to understand, and that the relative rarity of these or the absolute numbers that exist is pretty hard to understand, and without population reports, we really can't be too sure on things. But what I can point out is that Mario Bros. 3 Factory Sealed has 250 copies on the pop report. 250. And that game still routinely sells for $5,000 to $30,000 almost every 2 or 3 weeks. There is nowhere close to that number. If we start talking about Chrono Trigger, Turtles 4, Final Fantasy 3, we're talking about sub 50 copies, very likely on every single one of those. I am extremely confident we will not have population report numbers that high on all of these top tier video games. If you're thinking that this is going to make a difference to the market, if you're thinking that this is confirmation that factory sealed and graded games aren't rare, or that these kind of finds are going to happen regularly, I think you are going to be extremely disappointed over the next 5, over the next 10 years, when nothing really changes in this market and steady upwards trajectory is what continues to happen. Demand will dictate everything in this market, not supply. There is not enough supply to go around. Everyone seems to act like demand is not a factor at all, where demand is truly what's going to decide where these prices fall, because supply is never going to overwhelm to any meaningful amount. But anyways, that's more of an unscripted rant about everything. Let me know in the comment section if you agree with me, disagree with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it all. Like I said, we'll talk about this more when another video comes out. We'll have all the details on the find, and I look forward to it. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.